Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Brick and Mortar Education from the Inside Out. I'm Eric Ebersol with, here he is, Matt Gressick, my co-host. Matt has given me the rare pleasure of introducing at the top today because Will is his friend and he knows him. I love this guy, Will Page. We are doing something rare this time, but we kind of do what we want now anyway. But Will was so fascinating last time that we gave him a nice long episode. And my God, if you haven't gone back and listened to the first one, you probably should stop here and go back and listen to the first episode now before you start this one up. But Will is a teacher in California, and not in any old part of California, but a part of California that has been impacted by the fires that are often out there, but don't often impact neighborhoods and schools. And so with that, I'm happy to welcome him back for Will Page, the sequel. Here we go.
Part two.
Hey, glad to be back, gentlemen.
Man, that's great. That's great.
All right. So Will, last time you talked a lot about just what was going on the ground, the logistics, the community just coming together and helping each other out. And I mean, just so informative, and just the story was just so compelling. This time we're going to start off a little bit more education focused. So what we're going to do is how did those fires and the evacuation process affect your teaching, and both in terms of logistics and your students' emotional well-being, and how you decided to do all of that stuff there while being a dad and a husband and everything, So just, go away. Tell us about that part.
I really appreciate that question. It was wild. Like that's the only word I can use to describe it, because it's not just for my students. It wasn't just me who was impacted. It was my partner teacher as well. My partner teacher actually lost her home, and she lives about a mile and a half up from me.
So you think you're thinking you have it tough, and then you have to be fully aware that the person
I mean, we're 4 weeks in at this point, and we're not back in our home, but my partner teacher lost everything that she and her family had. And so it was interesting because our district, our school, obviously neither of us were there on Wednesday the 8th, because we were both evacuees at that point. The district ended up making a decision, because the air quality was so terrible, to close schools at about 9:30 a.m. on that same day, which was an absolute it was an absolute mess. We had my school is a middle school of 1,700 students.
Jeez.
And
900. California does everything a little bigger, I suppose.
Yeah, well, and we are one of the bigger middle schools in LA. So
okay, I'll accept that.
But we ended up having only 900 kids on campus that day, because 800 families decided to keep their kids at home. Yeah. Which, I mean, if you had been here, you'd understand why. And the 900 were there who all of a sudden had to be evacuated, including about of my 50 kids, about 30 of them had to be they had to wait for parents to get home, or wait until buses were able to arrive, because we are a magnet school, to be able to get them to where their pickup locations were. From there, though, we were closed on Thursday and Friday, the 9th and the 10th, and then came back to school the following Monday. And it was tough, because
what was the demeanor of the school when you all returned? What was it like? I mean, I've come back after other kinds of disasters, to school. But
I mean, it was weird, man. I mean, to be very honest, Eric, because we had just had not only the Eden fire, which affected my partner teacher and me, and we had the Palisades fire, and then on Thursday night there was the Griffith fire, which my classroom looks at the Griffith Observatory, which is one of the biggest landmarks in Los Angeles. It's right there in Griffith Park, and you have this fire that breaks out in in Griffith Park. I'm sorry, it was the I apologize. It wasn't the Griffith fire. It was the Runyon fire, which is the canyon that I mentioned in the last episode
Yeah,
that we
yeah.
name our fires after canyons or after locations. So the Runyon fire was just over, and I had students who live in Hollywood who, not only dealt with like people coming through their neighborhood, but their families felt so impacted that they, because like all of a sudden you're seeing the Palisades and Eaton fire burn in the 2 days previous.
So
You're
how did
like,
you
no.
get your kids? How did you get your kids on task that day? What did
So,
you do?
so actually, we started off the day. I came in. My partner teacher was not able to come in, and I'm glad she didn't because she was not in any condition to be able to. I decided to go in on Monday so that at least one of our kids' teachers were going to be there. And we started off the day. I spent homeroom. I brought both groups into my classroom. I have a massive classroom, so I brought both groups in, and I basically explained to them what the situation was, how they were going to have to address issues related to both of their teachers being affected by this, one of them losing their home, one of them being out of their home, and that we were not going to be right. And there were going to be times where like we had to take calls from our insurance companies or from adjusters or whoever else we were dealing with. And that was just like, hey, we need you as sixth graders, 11 and 12-year olds, to be as responsible as you possibly can be.
And
Um,
isn't it true that kids rise to that? I mean, I've people sell kids short, but they have a unique ability to pull
yeah,
themselves in.
yeah, no, I mean, like they got it. And then what was great is I then actually I studied what is called the practice of counsel. Some people know this as like restorative justice circles or things like
I
that,
gotta
but
stop you. We have a bill that I'm working on right now in the legislature where
yeah.
we're asking the State Department of Education to establish some standards that counties can adopt for restorative practices, and I'm really looking forward.
Hey, I'll gladly talk to you offline about this because I got
Good.
some I got some gems for you, brother.
Okay.
Um, but I ended up for both groups of students. It's a group of 22 and then a group of 28. We held a circle where it really because I felt like I had kind of done my part during homeroom and addressed sort of the issues that I was dealing with and that my partner teacher was dealing with. And now it was time for the students to be able to address, their fears and concerns and the anxiety that they had been feeling. And it was really great to actually have that time and to allow for them to be able to share. And the thing is, this is a practice that has gone on all school year. So, there's some kids who, every time they get the talking piece, they pass it. But there's other kids who, like this is the first time they leaned in on it. And
Yeah.
it was really beautiful to kind of see that and to have them
Yeah.
be able to express what they were dealing with. And it made it a much more safe environment for us to get back to the teaching and learning aspect of what the classroom is about.
What a great promotion for restorative practices. I'm so glad
Yep.
because everybody, the people who are the naysayers on that often say, well, this is not good discipline. And those of us who do it's not discipline, okay?
Yeah.
It's creating an atmosphere, and it's a practice. It's not punishment,
I think the most important part about it is it allows you to build classroom community.
Hmm.
And while you might take away, and I put that in massive quotes for the listeners out there, you might take away from the time that is built in for academics. What you are building is the processes that allow for students to actually learn at a much higher level because they
This
feel
is my favorite phrase. I use it for all these things that you do all these things to make kids available to learn. They're
right.
and this is
Yeah,
then you get good bang for your buck, so to speak.
it's low level on Maslow's, right?
Right,
Like you're
right.
just making them feel safe.
That's right. So I have to, we're gonna cast this in a little bit of light. I do have another question, but I think it's funny. I'm going to give away when we're recording this because we're in a little bit of a snow event here, which
Yeah.
Yeah.
in Maryland, a snow event is 5 inches of snow, which is great because we don't get completely snowed in, but school is already postponed. But I think we do get off for snow and occasionally, the occasional hurricanes coming through and they close a little bit.
Yep.
I don't think we've ever closed due to smoke. So we did have a fire thing, but it was the summertime, but that's a different one, close due to heavy smoke. And that's what you guys had, the air quality was low. It's amazing to me. On it, just not getting into too much detail, but are kids rebounding to learning? Are they in the weeks following, have they begun to come back around?
Yeah, I mean, within days, the
That's
students in
amazing.
LAUSD for the most part did. But what was interesting is the kids at Pasadena Unified. They went basically nearly all of January without school. They were back on the 7th and they were back on the 7th. I'm sorry, the 6th and the 7th they were back out on the 8th and then didn't come back until the 29th.
Wow.
Okay.
And my daughter used to be in Pasadena Unified. Her best friend is a student at Marshall Middle and High School, and her brother goes there as well. And we were helping them move into their new place because they lost their home. We were helping them move into their new place this past weekend, and we ended up going out to lunch. And I was like, "Hey, how's school going?" Because I knew that they were back. It had been about a week, and they were so excited to be back. And this is a school where probably about 20-30% of the kids were directly impacted by this fire with regard to either losses or displacements. And these are two kids who lost their home, and they were just so overjoyed for the normalcy. And yeah, in the community, because that's what we offer in public schools. And to see the attacks that we're under, especially in this last week and a half, it is embarrassing in this country to me that we have these ideas that public schools are less than, because it is the place where the vast majority of our kids go. It's the place where the vast majority of our kids of color go. And if we can't be decent humans and allow for us to realize it's not about diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is about a great public school in every zip code in this country.
Yep.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, the studies show that having kids of various backgrounds and socioeconomic is good. It doesn't just lift the poor kids up.
Lifts everybody.
It works in both directions. It's absolutely valuable, and all the research shows that to be true. That people blended
I'm sorry,
together.
really quick to your point, Eric.
Yeah.
So because of where my school is located, I have this was 7 years ago, but I had a student whose father was an EGOT, literally an Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Award winner. And then his best friend was a kid who was undocumented, whose parents could not afford shoelaces.
Right.
Yeah.
And they're meeting in the same classroom as sixth graders, and have developed now a friendship that has gone beyond high school.
So if we were going to give this podcast, I think it's resilience. Okay.
Seriously.
So and there it is.
All right. What is that you hear, Eric?
I heard a ring, but my ringer's not working so well. But the lights flashing, little red lights flashing on the big board here. That where we answer the call. So we must be getting a phone call. Let's pick it up. Hello, caller.
We have a caller. Caller, what's your name?
My name's Hope.
Hi, Hope.
Hey, Hope.
Hey, Hope.
That's a great name for this episode, I got to tell you.
Yes, I have a daughter with a middle name of Hope. She's a fantastic athlete, basketball player, and wonderful young woman. I'm sure
I think I met Hope at U.S. Congress about a year ago.
Yes, and she's also, she also speaks up for those in public education. So let's see what Hope's question is today.
Yes, Hope.
In what ways did you and your community come together to support one another during and after the fires? And how did that sense of unity influence the learning environment?
We kind of touched on this a little bit already. But that's a wonderful question. Like, do you have any anecdotes, Will, that would enlighten this young woman's question? Thank you so much.
Well, Hope, first of all, thank you.
Maybe you have an anecdote. I don't know.
Well, Hope, first of all, thank you for the question. And actually, my favorite bit of like, to me, one of the most inspiring things that has come out of this, there is a girl who started a program in Altadena called Altadena Girls. And her home wasn't affected, but so many of her classmates, so many of her friends were. And she started a nonprofit almost immediately.
Wow.
And the entire premise behind this was that they were going to crowdsource getting clothing, getting makeup, getting all sorts of things that make girls feel like they are girls. And she found a warehouse space in downtown LA, not far from where I'm staying right now, and ended up getting stylists from the Hollywood industry to be able to come in. They curated different clothes so that these girls who would be able to walk in, who were affected, like lost everything in the fires, were able to walk in and then from there be able to like literally have their style curated by a Hollywood stylist,
What?
right? Yeah, no, this was so cool. But the thing is, it like you would think that it was like, okay, this is just a couple of times. It stopped. And this is a 15-year-old kid.
Mhm.
He has secured a building in Pasadena on the corner of Raymond and Colorado, which Colorado is like part of Route 66. She's able to secure a building where Altadena Girls is going to continue on their advocacy. Not only now they do the stylist thing, but it's by appointment only. But they also have brought in mental health services. They brought in social services in order to be able to support and make sure that the kids are right. And it's so beautiful to see. I'm sorry, but it's so beautiful to see a kid doing this because it's exactly what we need. And one of my favorite moments in the last couple of weeks was when my kid, I have a 13-year-old, nearly 14-year-old daughter, was like, "Hey, I want to do work with Altadena Girls."
Awesome.
And so
Great story.
for
And
me,
you know,
that
the great part about it is how much it means to you to see what's going on. You know, your emotion here is genuine and valuable. My God.
well, and I mean, and like it's happened so wide. I mean, whether that was like the outpouring of support that where people were donating clothes, and we don't need any more clothes here in Southern California. Just gonna throw that out. We don't need any more clothes. We don't need any more of. But what we do need is for there to be an understanding that this is an ongoing crisis. It's going to be years before our communities are able to recover, um, and that there needs to be a level of uh, empathy and support that goes above and beyond all the madness that is happening in our country right now.
Thank you.
Such a beautiful
So
story.
Nice job, Hope.
But yeah,
As
Hope, thank you for that
usual,
question.
our guest questioner comes through with an amazingly timed and beautiful question. Well done. Well done. So
No
thanks.
problem.
All right. So, Eric, would you like to do our?
Okay, well, yeah, you know, so we do this at the end of every episode. Well, who knows? We may check back with you at the beginning of next school year and see how everything's coming up because you're quite a fun guest. So think about a school that you work at or that you attended or any school like that. And you know, all schools have mascots. And so, you know, have you ever been one that says, you know, what the heck? What the hell is that? You know, why is this our mascot? You know,
Yep.
and so think of that school and tell us what the mascot is and what you would have changed it to if you could have had a different mascot.
Oh, man, Eric, this is the easiest question you guys have posed to me in
Some
two
people completely
episodes.
seize up on this. They can't do it. Okay.
Yeah, no, this is low-hanging fruit for me.
Okay.
So I actually in middle school, so I started off in LAUSD and then switched to the Archdiocese of Los Angeles. And I went to St. Brendan's. It was a K through 8 school. I started there as a sixth grader. And as a sixth grader, we were the St. Brendan Wolverines, which I was like, okay, that's cool. And
Good
then all
name.
of a sudden, we became the St. Brendan Shamrocks. And I was like, okay, we went from the Wolverines to the Shamrocks, and then we became the St. Brendan Brendans. I don't even know what a Brendan is.
That is
Yeah,
weak.
it was
That is
terrible.
weak. I
Yeah,
agree.
no, it was awful. It was awful. Like starting off like solid, and then like I get the Shamrock Ireland imagery. I get that.
Yeah.
But then and so you know, we were named after Saint Brendan the Navigator. That's what the parish is named after. And you know, I started doing research as about a seventh grader when we had Shamrocks, and I was like, this is weak. And I like did a deep dive into who Saint Brendan was. And there was this amazing story about Saint Brendan and the whale. And so I was like, why are we not the whales? You
Yeah,
know, and people
yeah.
like we're in LA, you know, we do whale tours out here. You know, it seemed like pretty low hanging fruit.
Well
And
done.
we just could not seal that deal.
The
Yeah.
Brendans.
The Brendans.
Oh, that was the worst. I was like, really? The same Brendans?
Go
And then I gotta say,
Brendan.
my high school mascot was the Nobles, and then our opposition was the Phantoms. And so we called them the Fairies because it was the 90s, and
Yeah,
they
yeah.
called us the No Balls.
Yeah. I think that would only have to be, you know, the vernacular, not really the actual.
Yeah.
Those are good ones, man.
That's
Those are
awesome.
good
Yeah,
ones.
so
Great story.
but definitely St. Brendan's, whatever's we should have been the whales automatically.
Yeah, the
so.
whales would have been a great one. Nice
Yeah.
job. Well played.
Wonderful, wonderful session, wonderful podcast here, man. I tell you what, it teared me up here a second. I got to laugh. Wonderful guest. Do you have a link toward the Altadena Girls clothing store that I can put in the description?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll pass that on to you.
Okay.
We'll put
And
it in
they're
there.
actually, so you can actually find them on Instagram.
Okay.
So it's at Altadena Girls is their handle on Instagram. And I mean they're just doing just really spectacular work. I mean,
You know,
if you
you know, when you're in Los Angeles and you reference places, of course, there are places that we've heard in all the Beach Boys songs. Okay.
yeah,
So without
Little
any
old lady from
without
Pasadena.
any suggestive overtones, I want to say I wish they all could be Altadena Girls. Okay?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
because I hear Palisades, I hear all those names. I'm like, man, those are real places the Beach Boys were singing about. So they were singing about good people like the Altadena Girls too. So
Oh, without a doubt. And Matt, I'm gonna pop in a chat. We have this amazing radio station locally called KCRW, an NPR affiliate. And I just popped it in the chat for you. They have a great story about the Altadena Girls, but and on Instagram, check at Altadena Girls.
Okay.
yeah, I copied that. I copied that link, Matt. I got it.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, thank you so much, Will. This was awesome. We definitely will have to check it back in. I think possibly next year, at the beginning of next year, to see how the recovery's going. Co-host, your thoughts?
None. There's nothing to add. It was great. It was a great episode. I'm really pleased. And this is Brick and Mortar from the Inside Out. And we came from the inside out today with Will. He told us what it was like inside a school that is challenged by fires. And we'll be back soon with some more episodes.
Take care.